In this video I want to do a quick review of the Huion GT-190, which is a graphics tablet similar in concept to the Cintiq, where you're actually looking at the on-screen display and using your input device, the pen, on that screen. Now before I get to a review of the unit itself, I will say that one of the things that you have to kind of work around is that the instructions for setup frankly leave a little bit to be desired. It comes with a user manual, and the first page it basically just says download the driver and use the USB cable to connect the tablet. What it doesn't say is that you still have to connect it as if it's a secondary monitor. Now that might be obvious to many people, but I was reading it as if I was a first-time user, and when I followed the instructions and plugged the USB cable in, nothing happened. The other thing that I found was a little bit unfortunate was the instruction that I need to charge the pen came several pages later. So meanwhile I'd already set up the tablet and was trying to use it and wondering why nothing was happening. That's because probably one of the first steps in the setup would be plug in the pen so it has some time to charge. It's going to take a while to charge the first time. Other than that, the setup was relatively easy because the driver did appear on the screen. As you can see here, that not a lot of options, and unfortunately there's at least one example of one of the things you'll encounter, which is poor translation, because this button really should say calibration. And that's one of the first things I will mention is that when I first set it up and tried to calibrate, it actually took a couple of tries, because the first time I followed the calibration process, I found when I went into Photoshop it was just a hair off, so I did it a second time, and maybe it was just my accuracy was better clicking on those elements the second time. You can choose to set this up as either an extension of your existing monitor, or what I've done here is as mirroring my main monitor, because for me the main purpose in using a tablet like this would be in Photoshop, so that I'm using Photoshop right on the monitor here. The advantage in having it set up this way is now when I'm working, I can work directly on the monitor. So for example, if I want to work with my healing brush, any work that I'm doing, I'm seeing the results. I'm working directly on the screen in the areas that I want to adjust. I can use all the menus the same way I normally would, but again, the difference is instead of using a tablet like my Wacom tablet and then looking at the monitor, I'm doing everything on the screen. Of course, there are settings on the monitor to adjust things like brightness and contrast and things of that nature, so to get it set up the way that you want. I didn't spend a whole lot of time doing that because out of the box, honestly, it was pretty good. The only thing that I changed was I went to the color temperature and just changed that slightly, because I found it was just a little on the cool side, so I wanted to warm it up a little bit. So that was the only thing that I changed there. It's also nice that there is an option to change the angle, so depending right now, of course, I have it upright mostly for the video, but you can tilt it down to any angle you want. Now, this is what I would consider an entry-level graphics tablet compared to something like the Cintiq, and where you start to notice that is the orientation of the screen is a little different. It's not like a 720 or it's not 1080, it's kind of in the middle somewhere. The monitor resolution is slightly different, so you just have to adjust. Now I've set up Photoshop so it fills up the entire monitor, but when I was comparing the view of the size, it's just a little bit different. The bigger issue for me though is when I compare, for example, my iMac monitor with this one, the sharpness of the menu items and everything else on the iMac is just head and shoulders better than this. This is still acceptable, you can certainly still use it, and again, if you're comparing with something like the Cintiq from Wacom that's at a much higher price point, this as an entry-level device is a pretty good start. Like I said, if you can get past the limited information for the setup, and even the PDF that's available from the website is alright, but it has some issues grammatically that sometimes can be a bit of a distraction. But if you can get past all that, as an entry-level device for this type of on-screen use, as long as you're not worried about very good color accuracy, this tablet is a pretty good entry-level starting place. The Huion GT-190 is available through Gearbest, the folks that sent me this tablet for their review, so if you're interested for more information, please go check it out at gearbest.com.